Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's program on Zoom. It's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 4, Text 63. So thank you all for coming and being on the program. Some of you are very regular, and that is so good for you. And Krishna is also very happy in situations like that. Without further ado, I'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhatari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhatari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Privajikacharya Stotra Saraswati Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Stotra Saraswati Maharaj Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Kuti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charja Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Chikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasani Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari 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 Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Shri Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddharthane. Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna. So Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila Chapter 4 Text 63 Radhini Sandini Samvit Tvayika Sarva Samstitau Radha Tapakari Mishra Tvaino Gunavajite Ladini Sandini Samvit Tvayika Sarva Samstitau Radha Tapakari Mishra Tvaino Gunavajite Radini Sandini Samvit Tvayika Sarva Samstitau Radha Tapakari Mishra Tvaino Guna Vajite. Hare Krishna. You can chant if you want to. Unmute yourself.
Ladini Sandini Sambit Tvayeka Sarva Samstitau Lada Tapakari Mishra Tvayi no Guna Varjite. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right. Word for word. Radhini, pleasure potency. Sandini, existence potency. Samvid, knowledge potency. Twayi, in you. Eka, one. Sarva samstito, who are the basis of all things. Radha, pleasure. Tapa, and misery. Kari, causing. Mishra, a mixture of the two. Twai, in you. Na'u, not. Gunavajite, who are without the three modes of material nature. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. O Lord, you are the support of everything. The three attributes, Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit, exist in you as one spiritual energy. But the material modes which cause happiness, misery, and mixtures of the two do not exist in you, for you have no material qualities. Purport. This text is from the Vishnu Purana 1.12.69. Oma Gnati Vedandasya, Gyana Gyana Shalakaya, Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chichitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharani, Nirvishesha Sunivari Paschatya Deshatari. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the translation again. O Lord, you are the support of everything. The three attributes, Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit, exist in you as one spiritual energy. But the material modes which cause happiness, misery, and mixtures of the two do not exist in you, for you have no material qualities. Hare Krishna. So, very important description of the Lord and his energies, Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit. And in the texts earlier, in the earlier days, the few days back, we really have been focusing on these. Ladini is the pleasure potency. Sandini is the potency of existence. And Samvit is the cognizance or the knowledge potency, or knowledge or cognizance, getting to know. So we are told that our souls, which we've been out of touch with for so many lifetimes, dealing only with the body in the material world, our souls are Satchitananda, Sat, eternal, Chit, full of knowledge, and Ananda, full of bliss. We are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we are like that, then the obvious conclusion is that the Lord is like that also, because it's him being like that at the spiritual level that makes our soul get those types of qualities. And the energies themselves, the nature is Satchitananda. The energies that support that nature are the Ladini, which is the one that supports the Ananda, the bliss, the Sandini, eternality, which supports the Sat, and then the Samvit energy, which supports the Chit, the one of knowledge. So these are all spiritual energies that exist in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as you heard from the translation, the material energies are there too, but they don't exist in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is his creation, true enough, material energy, but it's a separated energy. because he prefers to operate based on the spiritual energy, and his body is completely spiritual. The combination of the three, Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit, is called Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddha Sattva, pure goodness. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the introduction section, Srila Prabhupada states that the Lord is beyond the inferior and marginal energies. So there's the superior energy or the internal potency, and then the inferior or the external potency. And then there's marginal, that's where we are. We have a choice of being Krishna conscious or not, choosing the spiritual or choosing the material. So marginal is like the border between the two, the inferior energy and the superior energy. So his spiritual energy is manifested in three different phases as eternal existence, the Sandini, eternal bliss, the Dini, and eternal knowledge, Samvit. So another way of stating this is that eternal existence, and as far as that's concerned, that's conducted by the Sandini potency. So bliss and knowledge are conducted by the Ladini and Samvit potencies, respectively. So he is the supreme energetic. Krishna is where all the energies come from. So he is the supreme controller of all the energies, the spiritual and the material and the marginal, all three. So all these different types of energies are connected with the Lord in eternal service. Devotional service is to connect us to the internal energy of the Lord. We are in the external energy covered by the physical body, but we are trying, by the mercy of Guru, through his instructions, to connect with our original energy, which is the spiritual energy, composed of this Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit. So in the spiritual world, those energies operate, and everyone there is actually operating on this type of energy. Whereas in the material world, there are the three modes. The three modes, mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. That's what is prevalent here. And we use our physical body and our mind and the senses to act in one of these three modes or a combination of them. So in Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 19, Srila Prabhupada is explaining more. So out of the total manifestations of the Sandini energy, the energy of existence, 1/4 is displayed in the material world and 3/4 are displayed in the spiritual world. Why? Because the spiritual world is 3 times bigger than the material world. Therefore, in the existence, when you talk about existence, then 3/4 of that energy will be displayed in the place that is 3 times bigger. And 1/4 will be displayed in the rest of it, the material world. So Krishna himself is the full manifestation of existence, knowledge, and bliss. We are just part and parcel. Everything is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, in the material world, which what we're used to at this point, this sense of existence, knowledge, and pleasure is there, but it's exhibited to a very, very small extent, meagerly exhibited. Why? Well, Kali Yuga is it's quite obvious. We are here, we're living, but for how long? We have a meager 100 years. That's all. Knowledge is limited to us. And for us, knowledge is even polluted a little bit by these people who think they have, such control over the earth. The scientists that come up with all kinds of knowledge, but most of it is based on assumption because they don't know even how the world is put together. Mm. So pleasure is also limited because life is such that there is pleasure and then there is pain. So the pain limits the amount of pleasure we can have. And that's the way it is in the material world. Mm. So in the situation we're in now, in the material situation, these three, existence, knowledge, and bliss, will continue to be only minutely exhibited here. Whereas when we get to the liberated state, then we feel more of that because we have a good understanding that when we're liberated, that means that we are dealing with life in a spiritual way. And when we leave this body, we will continue now totally steeped in the three energies, Sandini, Sambit, and Ladini. And this is where we want to get to. The liberated souls who exist in far greater numerical strength, they outnumber us totally, those who are in the spiritual world. So only a few are in the material world, although it may seem like a whole lot. Even one planet has 7.5 billion people, not to mention those in the non-human type bodies. So we number in so much, but still, that's a small quantity compared to those who are in the spiritual world. And those in the spiritual world operate totally on the internal energy of the Lord Sandini, eternal existence, Samvit, eternal knowledge, and eternally blissful. In fact, in simple language, it's explained that there's so much joy in the spiritual world that the talking is like singing and the walking is like dancing. Now, let that sink in a little bit. The talking is like singing and the walking is like dancing. So when we talk about the Ladini energy, the energy of bliss, it gives so much happiness. And then in the spiritual world, there's no death. Deathlessness, there's no fear. There's fearlessness, and there's also freedom from old age and disease. Nobody gets old, nobody gets diseased. So Srimad Bhagavatam explains in Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 32, that the external energy is acting based on goodness, passion, and ignorance. Prakritiki amarani gunai karmani savasa. Ahankara vimudatma kataham iti manyate. So the person that is in the material world is thinking that they're acting on their own, but actually it is the external energy that fuels all our actions. All our actions in the material world is based on either being in the goodness, passion, or ignorance, or a combination of them. Even in the Varnashram system, where the Varnas are the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. The Brahmanas act in goodness. So their actions is controlled by the mode of goodness. It's explained more in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text 42, the way they are. Very good, they're tolerant. There's so many qualities that are there. Brahmanas operate in goodness. The Kshatriyas, who are the administrators and also the military people, they operate based on passion. And in the mercantile people, the Vaishyas, they have the modes of a combination of passion and ignorance. And the Shudras, the employees, that's mode of ignorance. So that's how things are set up. But the internal energy is all full of eternal existence, Sandini, eternal knowledge, Samvit, and eternal bliss. So Srila Prabhupada describes here three Shakti Drik. The Lord is described as omnipotent by these three energies. So the external energy, as we said, is based on goodness, passion, and ignorance. And the internal energy is this eternality, eternality. The internal energy is full of eternality, full knowledge, and full bliss. So the Sankhya philosophy explains the material energy for what it is and the spiritual energy for what it is. And it's explained in such a way that it becomes fairly anybody with any human that thinks well and is open-minded would easily choose the material, choose the spiritual over the material. You will reject the material. When it's explained in detail what the material energy, goodness, passion, and ignorance and those combinations can do to the body, and then the pain that is there, people like pleasure. Why? Because we are connected with the Ladini. The soul is connected with the Ladini energy, the pleasure, the bliss energy. So we try to seek that in the material world. But the material world has goodness, passion, and ignorance. And trying to seek bliss in a place where those energies are not there, then we are actually deceiving our own selves. And that is the situation here. So just like it's explained in the sixth canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, Shiva Baba is explaining that in the material world, the spiritual energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests as tapa kari, which means causing miseries. It's a reflection of the spiritual energy in the material world. So you think that it might give some pleasure, but then it doesn't take long to find out that it's causing miseries. As some people who've been honest enough, wealthy people who've been honest enough to admit what life is like, have explained to those who are not wealthy what wealth is like. Wealth means you have enough to buy whatever you want to buy. But can you buy happiness? No, those things that give happiness cannot be bought with money. So one can have so many things. And I have seen in situations. One time I was just driving in the highway in the Harrisburg area, Interstate 83. And so it's 2 lanes going one direction at that time. Now it's 3, but 2 lanes at that time. And I happened to be going side by side with a person in a very, 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 very nice Mercedes-Benz vehicle. There's a woman driving it. And the thought crossed my mind, well, she's probably well-to-do. I mean, look at the car that she's driving. Then my mind prompted me, look a little more closely. I looked in, this time at the driver. And this woman was actually crying. She was driving, but she was crying. And I felt so sorry for her. And I'm saying, but you're sitting in a very nice, expensive car, but you're not happy. So the material things don't cause happiness. So the point is, people are hankering for happiness. But although the happiness originally comes from the Ladini, the pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the material world, because of material activities, the pleasure potency becomes a source of misery. So the pleasure is not really true, it is false because it causes miseries. When people are trying to live a life and trying to be happy here in the material world, it doesn't take much for problems to come, and then that feeling changes. So it's actually false happiness. Shiva Papa says, in one sense, we think, oh, some things are good in material world. Shiva Papa says, everything is bad. King Bada said, everything is bad because we don't know what real happiness is. We are in false happiness in the material world, and that's the source of distress. But when one endeavors for happiness and redirects their service, their activities towards the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then this tapakari, this source of miseries, is vanquished. So it is, in fact, the Supreme Personality of Godhead service, when we satisfy his senses, that we become truly happy. And since the material world has all kinds of material activities that don't make us happy, or material things that don't make us happy, then the happiness that's being talked about is the happiness that comes from within. Hmm? So many people are trying to find happiness outside of what's in their heart, the soul. The soul is the one that has the three qualities. One of them is Ladini bliss, the happiness, or Ananda. And so we have to try to connect the whole time. And the Lord, being merciful, has come in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a devotee to show us how to be happy. So living entities are trying to seek pleasure from the external energy, but it's a farce. It never works. Why? We have to work to live. The spiritual world, you don't have to work to live. Everything is provided. Here, everything for the physical body is provided, but you just don't get it so easily. You have to work for it. Either you go work in this modern world and get paid and use the money to buy the things that you need in order to live, or if you live in a place where it's not like that, you still have to depend on the earth. So you have to go till the ground and plant seeds and get some vegetables, some things in order to live on. Cut trees, use part of it for wood to build a house in order to live on. So like that. So nothing is given so freely. Not here in the material world. We don't have that opportunity. But in the spiritual world, everything is provided. So whatever we do, some anxiety comes, one reason or another, some anxiety comes, because at any time our material situation may change and cause disappointment for a period of time. Even wealth, when somebody gets wealth, it's temporary. It can leave at any time. People who are in the stock market, they make the right moves, and in a short while, the stocks just, they buy and they become billionaires, multi-millionaires. And then one wrong move and the money is all gone. And we're starting again. So much anxiety that causes. And we have our Kali Yuga politicians who make decisions and impose them on us at any time, especially the tax laws. Every year in this country, they change. And it's all like this, like this, like this. But in the end, it actually is set up so that the politicians get more. They tax people more. And people don't know what is what because some things are held secret. It's supposed to be secret. And you just accept that it's supposed to be secret. Whether it's for our welfare or not, we don't know. And under such pressure, we're trying to enjoy ourselves. How can that be? So for the most part, people indulge in sense gratification in order to forget the miserable condition that we're in. So we are out of touch with the Ladini energy of the Lord. That is really what's going on. The living entity is living in fake bliss, fake Ananda. What we change that? Nam Sankirtan. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord changes all of that situations, those situations that we're in. That is difficult. And real happiness begins to well inside our hearts, where the soul is and the subtle body is. So all entities are pleasure seeking because the soul is by nature Satchitananda, Ananda being bliss. So all beings have to have pleasure. It's the very nature of a living entity. We're just trying to enjoy the pleasure potency by means of the body in the material condition. And that's what is causing the problems with us. Hmm? So when we worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the instructions of a spiritual master, we will be happy. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, who is the spiritual master for Srila Prabhupada, founder and charge of the Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. He wrote a book called Amrita Vani. Amrita is nectar, or also sometimes translated as immortality. Vani is instructions. So instructions for immortality. Now, so it's like a question and answer way. And one of the questions is, please tell us something about how to worship Krishna. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is going to answer. He says the best way to worship Krishna is in the same way in which the gopis of Vraja worship. So how do they worship Krishna? First of all, when they hear about Krishna, they drop everything in order to put Krishna first every time. They will go to Krishna. They think about Krishna all of the time. Rupa Manjari, who came in Adi Lila as Rupa Goswami, has said, always think of Krishna and never forget Krishna. Everything that you see, a first-class devotee, the Uttama Adhikari, sees Krishna everywhere they look. Material energy, sure. This is a wall, this is wood, this is a table. But the energy is from nature. And nature is created by Krishna, Lord Vishnu. So immediately they connect everything they see to Krishna. That way they think about Krishna all of the time. Now, with the material energy that has been converted into things like listening devices that we have, we can play music, but we have to play music that reminds us of Krishna. So not always we're thinking about Krishna. So the best way to worship Krishna is the same way as the gopis are doing. And what do the gopis do? They put nothing before Krishna. Nothing. Nothing comes before Krishna. Krishna is not second to anything in their minds. He's always first. So Krishna has all of the transcendental energies and is supremely independent. We've talked about these energies, the Ladini, pleasure. So the Ladini potency gives Krishna pleasure. The second energy, which is Samvit, its purpose is Krishna. It helps Krishna to feel the depth of his own self. And the third energy, which is Sandini, the energy of existence, its purpose is to make all arrangements for the Lord's enjoyment. So that's another way that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur put it. So all the ingredients for Krishna's enjoyment are arranged by the Sandini Shakti. So, and we'll explain it a little more. Personified, the personification of a Sandini Shakti, she serves Krishna by manifesting his abode and the paraphernalia for his pastimes. So the Sandini is actually very much connected to Balaram because the spiritual world is from Balaram. The paraphernalia for Krishna's pastime is from Balaram, provided by Balaram. So that's the connection that's there. Now, so that's the Sandini. So the whole spiritual world and the eternal existence of the spiritual world, that is the Sandini Shakti. The Samvit, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj explains, the Samvit energy, which is the cognizance, serves Krishna by making him feel pleasure and helping him to realize himself. And then the Ladini Shakti personified manifests herself in various forms to increase the transcendental pleasure of Krishna. And it's done in ecstatic love in newer and newer and newer ways. So the Ladini Shakti, the one that is connected with Ananda, the bliss, manifests herself. Actually, Ladini Shakti is Srimati Radharani. And she manifests herself in various forms to increase Krishna's pleasure. And so the way she manifests that is that these forms appear as the damsels or the gopis of Vrindavan. The gopis are expansions of Sri Radha. As a matter of fact, was one devotee, Satsuma disciple, the name slips me, but I can see his face. He explained in Harrisburg the other day, he gave a lecture, and he said, so Lalita and Vishaka, they came from the arms of Srimati Radharani. So Srimati Radharani expands into all the gopis. So they're all connected with Sri Radha, who is the personification of ecstatic love for Krishna. And she is the supreme enchantress. Enchantress for man, enchantress, as Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj sometimes speaks with big words. The supreme person who enchants Krishna. So Sri Radha is the original shelter of all Krishna's transcendental energies. And of course, this divinely uncoupled, they form unity, but they also manifest themselves as the enjoyer, who is Krishna, and the enjoyed, that's Radha. So we are also to serve so that we are enjoyed, serve Krishna's senses, and then we become happy when we are enjoyed by Krishna. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to establish our service through subordination to Sri Radhika. We serve Srimati Radharani. That's why many people in Vrindavan and Vijayavasi says Jai Radhe. They're thinking about service to Srimati Radharani because to her, then the service to Krishna is definitely not only purified, but it's accepted by the Lord. Another question the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was asked, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj was asked, what is the procedure for engaging in service? So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj quoted the Shastra to answer this. Etavas janma salpayam dehinam iha dehishu prane atay diya vacha shreya acharanam sada. And that's in Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 22, Text 35. The translation is, it is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. Everyone is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we serve to change other people to think more spiritually rather than materially, then we are serving indirectly Krishna. In one sense, you can say it's service directly to Krishna also, because the persons who we serve are part and parcel of Krishna. So then, prasadam distribution and book distribution and teaching people to chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, are all wonderful services that we should give with our life, with what we have as wealth, with our intelligence, and what we speak. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj says, serving Krishna, serving God is the secret of success in life and happiness. And not doing that, aversion to his service, is the root of all distress. So when we serve Krishna, we'll be happy. And when we don't serve Krishna, we'll be in distress. It's that simple. Service the Supreme Lord is done mainly through, he called this prana. Prana means consciousness, prana, consciousness and love. Not prana, the other one that is like, the life air. Prana with a dot, a stroke over the A, the first A. Prana. That means consciousness or love. So service to the Supreme Lord is rendered mainly through love. And the love makes us use our wealth, our intelligence, and our speech. So those that are devoid of that, the consciousness of love, they can't serve properly. And that's why he lists prana first. And who does that? Gives us the prana? The spiritual master. Gives us the right consciousness and helps us to develop love for Krishna. And if we do that, then we will be in a great, 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 great condition where we will remain happy because we're serving Krishna. And the whole service of Krishna, after a while, grows on you. When somebody comes in and say, oh, we have to do this, we have to do this. So then they take it by instruction. But after a while, they begin to realize their life's getting better and better. They begin to feel happier and happier. And the only thing they're doing is they're serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're serving the spiritual master, and they're serving the devotees. And that's what's made the difference. So while we're doing that, there are some things that we have to be aware of. Pitfalls that we have to be aware of. See, the Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj says, if we don't serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we're killing ourselves spiritually. Only an ignorant person wouldn't serve Lord Hari. And sometimes situations come up that are disturbing or challenging. The first thing is to tolerate. If we tolerate, we're able to work through our emotions, put that in a proper position, and then whatever that situation is will go away. Krishna is always there to help us. So, Srila Bhaktivedanta also, Maharaj also says that followers of Srila Rupa Goswami, that's us, we offer all glory to the original source, Krishna, instead of depending on our own strength. What that means is, even though we have some measure of energy inside these bodies that we use, we have to be aware that everything that makes this body work, including the intelligence, comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, whatever works well, we should offer all glory to Krishna. So when the devotees praise, they should respond, it is the mercy of Guru, it is the mercy of Gauranga. We offer all glory to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That way we'll never become puffed up while we're serving. These are all pitfalls that we have to avoid. And one big thing in Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 1866, don't be involved in other religious activities. Those who perform all kinds of religious activities, they cannot serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The instruction is very simple. Surrender to the Lord. Surrender means our minds, our bodies, our homes, everything directed to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is all. That's the Sanatan Dharma. That is the religion that is eternal. That's the one we practice. How to serve the senses of Krishna, how to convince others to do the same. At whatever level that they are, you meet them there and you raise them higher. So in that sense, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, for every temple, we should become united with one purpose, to serve Lord Hari. One purpose. And when we think that way, then the material things don't become important. Wherever we were born doesn't become important. Whatever our degrees are don't become important. All we do is serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and serve the devotees. So we should discuss also, another point that he's given advice, we should discuss Krishna. Where there is discussion about Lord Hari, Krishna, that place is a place of pilgrimage. So the temples are, in one sense, a place of pilgrimage. Now, when we go to Vrindavan, we go to Mayapur, what do we go to do? The temples become important to us right away. Hmm? The sacred rivers become important to us right away. So those are places of pilgrimage. Wherever Krishna is, in any temple, that is an embassy of Vaikuntha. It's a place of pilgrimage. So when we meet there and the business there is 100% discussion about Krishna, we should not bring negative things to that place. It's contaminating. And so we should stay away from offenses. And for that, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, my advice is don't criticize others. Just try to rectify yourself. So we should not criticize others, but we should see about how we can improve our own lives. So we will be fortunate. That time will come. And that fortunate time is thinking about Krishna when it's time to leave. That fortune would come, but the preparation is what we're talking about now. We will connect with the sun, the Ladini, the pleasure potency. Don't try to look for it in the material world. Because this is not true. It's fake. You always have some distress attached to it. But focus on serving the Supreme Lord and serving with our hearts. And we will be happy here, and the happiness would increase several times, several fold, several orders of magnitude when we get back to the spiritual world. Krishna wants us back. So we shouldn't waste any time. Try to go after this particular body. Don't take any more material bodies because you're not going to be happy here, especially in Kali Yuga. Things get worse and worse and worse and worse. And try to help others to come also in any way that we can. Food for life, prasadam, books, just simply talking, being nice to people, and injecting Krishna consciousness into their lives whenever the opportunity comes. Krishna will be happy with us when we do that. So criticism should stop. We should rectify ourselves and serve, understanding that whenever we go to the temple, that is a place of pilgrimage. And we're there to unite and serve Lord Hari. Shila Prabhupada ki jai. So, thank you very much for allowing me to do the service this morning. If you have some comments or questions, you can unmute yourself and share that with us. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, August.
Accept mine, glory to Srila Prabhupada.
There was one point that you mentioned in the lecture in somewhere midway, and and it's been on my mind since then, but I don't know if I am able to phrase it correctly, if I heard it correctly. I think you mentioned that the external energy sometimes will affect us, but we are not aware of it, something like that you said. Did I hear you correctly?
The external energy will affect us. The external energy is the energy that we're in now, the material world. The external energy, yeah.
And so my question is, if we are not able to catch ourselves when it affects us, then what's the solution?
You're asking that if it affects us, what is the solution? If we're not able to catch ourselves and it affects us, what is the solution?
Yeah, because it's so subtle, it's so subtle.
Some things are gross, some things are subtle. That's true. Some things are, we have to be aware that Maya will play different tricks with us. And we're trying to go back to the spiritual world. Being a Hare Krishna devotee means that we're trying to go back to the spiritual world. We are on the path back to the spiritual world. And we will get there. It's just a question of whether we go after this body or the next body and so on. And of course, the campaign is try to go after this particular body is over because the next life, the world itself will be going through more changes. more difficulties. Maya is actually trying to help us as devotees by exposing the things that we need to work on. Hmm? If something material has happened and somebody is unhappy or a little bit frazzled, a little bit confused, moods have changed some, look at it from an internal standpoint. What is it what is it about me has caused this? If we point fingers at somebody else, we will be pointing fingers at somebody else, always somebody. There'll be plenty of bodies to point at, and our own situation will not be dealt with. The more we point at people, that's a great expression of the fact that tolerance is not there. Tolerance needs to be worked on more. That does not mean there
That's
can't be discussion. Discussion can be there for making us understand what the situation is and also share our feelings. That's there. But at the back of our minds, whatever that happens, Krishna is the cause of all causes. Therefore, we can never ignore the fact that some amount of tolerance will have to play into it also. And that helps us not to overreact in things that happen. You can say what you have to say, but say it with the fact that if it works out okay, fine. If it doesn't work out okay, I'm going on. In fact, Mother Teresa, if you know about Mother Teresa, it was Indian body, and it was quite popular around the world, being quite a renunciate. He made some statements that my Guru Maharaj repeated, and that's how I got to know about it. Hmm? When people try to stop us from doing good things, do it anyway. Hmm? When people do bad things to us, ignore it and go on anyway. Hmm? And when people say things to us that are negative, ignore it and go on anyway with your life, that is. Hmm? Because in the end, it's not about us and them. It's about us and God anyway. Hmm? It's about how we're going to get to God. Therefore, the negative things that affect us or when it comes in our path is not something that we have to put so much energy behind it. You do your best to deal with it, but you understand that there are lessons in it, learn those lessons and move on. Sometimes if there's no lessons at all, you don't see any lessons from it. There's only one lesson, tolerance. That's what's really happening. Tolerance. How much you're going to tolerate the situation. And many times by tolerating, Krishna will fix that particular problem. I've seen it in so many years that we lived, decades that we lived at Girinagri, and I bring Girinagri up because the devotees have to live, we had to live as a community. Hmm? So our lives were like an open book to only so much that you can keep. People got to know who we were. Everybody understood that we were working on our lower natures or faults and trying to fix them. And Krishna it was explained to us by Bhaktivedanta Maharaj at the time that he was GBC, that it was explained to us that the deities are going to ruffle our feathers, cause stuff so that it will come to the surface, we'll have to work on it, and then improve. Therefore, the whole community understood that it is no big deal when somebody's faults come out. It's no big deal. The community understood that we had to help the person to get over that. And then we had meetings, Istigostis later on, and there are people who have been there like 3 or 4 years, and they would openly admit, I used to be like this. Hmm? And now things have changed, and we all just smile to ourselves. We just basically laugh with the other person. At the time it was happening, it wasn't funny. But the person has realized what their faults are, and they've changed. And the community goes on. And then others too would say, I used to be like this. Hmm? And now I see the new people who have come, they're behaving the same way I used to behave when I came up first. And again, we'll just laugh about it. Hmm? And then we just go on. So the cleansing of our minds and the improvement of our activities in the mode of goodness, that was being supplied by the mercy of Shishihara Damada, Ningirinagi, at the time we were there. Therefore, there's nothing to be so surprised about when things come up. We still ruffled some feathers, and now we have to deal with different situations. In the end, we understand each other better and we serve better. But if we try to brush it under the rug, it will come up again in a different way. It'll come up another side of the rug, and because they say, here it is, deal with it again. As soon as you deal with it, then you go on, you understand each other better, and the bonds become even stronger. And that is the understanding they have to have. It took us being in Girinagi to see that. And even when we came the first time, those who were there before us, mostly Satsuma disciples, they warned us, one and myself. The deities are like that. Mm? So therefore, the things that you work on, they will arrange for it to come out. Don't be surprised. The whole community is getting purified. That's the way it is there. And that was transmitted to some people who were back where we came from, Maryland. And actually, the funny part is some people decided that they won't come to Kirinag. You mean my stuff is going to get exposed? I'm not coming to Kirinag. Well, you're going to have to grow. That's why we're in the material world. So basically, we won't be always able to catch ourselves. The purification is a process that goes, on with, if you become a pure devotee, your life will be a whole lot better. So why not, agree to be open to purification? And that's a devotee's life. If we shut that off, we ain't going back to Godhead. Because we can't take our stuff to the spiritual world. They won't let us in at all. They won't let us in. We'll have another body. Because of Prashadam, we most probably get another human body. And to continue. But then going back to spiritual world is out of the question. Purification is what helps. So we should never, when stuff come up, fall apart. It is an opportunity to grow. Hare Krishna. Thanks for asking the question. Any other questions or realizations or
I'm being reminded of Krishna and Arjun, that beautiful pastime,
Mm.
how Arjun was taking Krishna, I don't want to say for granted, but they had a friendly relationship, and I think
Sometimes it felt like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
in
then
the end he apologized, but yeah,
yeah, it
go
was
ahead.
such a nice, I was just thinking about that, how it switched from, taking instructions, and they were cousins and they were friends and they were so intimate, and Krishna himself was tolerating it. And at the end, Arjun surrendered to the Lord, as a spiritual, as a disciple to a spiritual master. And just that vision of Arjun, kneeling before Krishna and just surrendering himself from being a friend to give me, as a student. It was, I was just reminded about that pastime just coming to an. Thank you.
And that is the attitude that we should have. That's the attitude that we should have. Attitude towards Guru, that reminds me of a statement that Ramanujacharya made to his disciples. He was on his deathbed, getting ready to leave the body. His disciples were distraught, obviously. Some of them were crying, and everybody was Guru Maharaj just leaving, and emotions were that way. But he looked at them and told them, first, I thank you for all the services that you've done to keep my service to my Guru Maharaj going. You've been very, very helpful. Now, the first advice. You should relate to each other with the intensity of service and humility, the way you have served me. Serve each other that same way. In other words, have that same mentality, same mood of service towards each other, the way you served me so nicely. Now, if we did that, serving devotees with the same mentality that we serve Guru, it will be a very, very happy situation in the temple for everybody. We understand to go out of our way to make things in service to Guru, make Guru comfortable. We should do the same thing for the devotees. But sometimes we want to criticize devotees. We will shudder at the thought of even criticizing Guru, but then we criticize devotees. No, we should treat them the same way as we treat Guru. And that is what's going to make us happy and everyone around us happy. Hare Krishna. Okay. Any other comments? We are past the hour. Any other last comments or questions? If not, then we thank you very much for coming on this morning. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sunibhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Have a wonderful rest of your week in the Krishna conscious way. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. God Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare